one more last thing, pursuant to what Shane was saying for the moment, when you, like you said, when you took that role, you didn't take that role with a huge belief set one way or the other. It was more so this is an interesting job, and as you went to do it, your, I suppose, what you thought about this got formed over the course of the 20 years. Um, Within the context of what you were doing, did it ever become aware why the secrecy? Meaning, was it, okay, we just don't want people to know potential capabilities? Was it, we think that this will revolutionize and change society in such a way where it would be disruptive? Was there any conversation that you could talk about that was had on that very specific issue of why is this stuff in the black, at least from the context of the United Kingdom?
The secrecy is almost exclusively because of technology. Whatever we're dealing with here, the nation that first figures out this can maybe derive technologies from it. And obviously, in that situation, you want to be the first. And if lots of different countries are working on it, you don't necessarily want any of them, even allies, let alone adversaries, to know what you're doing and what progress you're making. Now, the declassified intelligence study I mentioned, Project Condign, went into a little bit of that, and it talked about novel military applications that might result from a better understanding of what we're dealing with here. So I think it's technology acquisition rather than societal shock that is behind the secrecy here.
Nick, permit me 30 seconds to follow this up. Is that why they're exposing it? Meaning, when I had the opportunity to talk to Elizondo, and I kind of made the point that science is one of those things where it seems to work better when you're dealing with other people and other people can put heads together and everything else. And that there's maybe a limiting factor in trying to keep the stuff isolated. And if you believe that your country can basically take advantage of the technology faster than other countries can take advantage of the technology, would that be a justification to try to get it out, especially if you feel like you're falling behind technologically to other countries? Say, for example, the contest with China and the United States in that competition. I think a lot of this stuff has reasons in political or based in political reasons. Is that out of whack or not so much from the way and from the position where you were in government that, well, no, it wouldn't be, those wouldn't be reasons to bring something like that out. What are your thoughts on that? Just the thought behind that.
It might be a factor, but I can't help but think there's something else at play here because we've seen a 180-degree flip in the way this subject has been handled. And it's almost as if now they're promoting it and pushing it and getting it out there. If I had to guess, and it would just be a guess, I would say that somebody's realized that maybe something's coming. Maybe you can't keep the genie in the bottle anymore. And in that circumstance, you want to get out ahead of the narrative and be sort of leading the conversation rather than reacting to things. So maybe that's the answer. Maybe, as I say, something is coming.
Does that concern you? Like
Yes.
okay, okay. I was just curious. When Stephen Bass was on the show, I was asking him the same. Like, because it's my we cover politics on the show, and part of the thing with the politics or political angle is oftentimes things are put in a way that gives people an impression of things, that pushes people in a point of view that drops context. And so the individual believes that they're thinking and they believe they're coming to a conclusion when really the conclusion they're coming to is basically incentivize. My biggest concern about this issue is that what gets put out and what gets explained is explained in a way where people have a certain purview of the world that is not necessarily something that came to their own, but was incentivized based on the way the information was delivered. That scares me. That terrifies me about this issue. I want to thank you for coming on. I really do appreciate this. I know we had a lot of technical glitches and everything else, but absolutely appreciate it. The voice that you guys...
we had a great conversation, covered a lot of interesting territory, I think. So thanks for having me on the show.
No, thank you for coming on. The voice that you guys are listening to is Nick Pope, freelance British journalist, media commentator, and former civil servant, Wilson employee at the British government's Ministry of Defense for the last 21 years. Pope was responsible, among other duties, for investigating UFO phenomena to determine whether it had defense significance. You guys are listening to Fault Lines, where at this point, I guess Fault Lines is over with. I want to thank you guys for joining us. like, share, and of course, subscribe. Thanks all.